Dr. Brenda Wells. I'm the chair of the College of Business Department of Finance and Insurance, and I'm also the director of the Risk Management and Insurance Program, which has been around since 2010. We're lucky today to have two of our alums from that program, Tyler Surles and Frank Jarboe, who were kind enough to come. Frank gets the farthest traveler award. Where did you come from, Maryland?
Yeah, Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah, so he came all the way down here for this to be with y'all, so we're really proud to have them here. The purpose of this session is to kind of tell you what things are going to surprise you when you get out. I know for me, when I first got out of school, and I thought I was making really good money, and I was making really good money, but one of my surprises was it sure didn't last long. It was like I got paid once a month, and the end of that month was always tough, no matter what. So I thought it would be interesting to have a couple of people who've been in your shoes before talk to you about the things that surprised them. So I'm going to start by asking you both to introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, what you do, and put it in plain English, not insurance-ese.
Everybody hear me? Okay. Thank you for coming out, and thank you, Brenda, for having me. I'm Tyler Surles. I am a large account underwriting specialist for a company in Raleigh called Rotary Mutual. We work solely for contractors, so we insure construction risk. To try to put this in simple terms, I am responsible for what we would call a book, but a group of accounts that generate a certain amount of revenue for my company. I'm working on accounts that are $250,000 in premium dollars for our company or more individually, and I work an entire book that would generate $12 to $15 million a year annually for our company. And I'm also responsible for production goals of $2 to $3 million a year on top of that as well.
My name is Frank Jarboe, from Frederick, Maryland. Graduated in 2014 from the RMI program, majored in finance. I am a wealth management advisor, which is basically a fancy way of calling myself a financial advisor or a financial planner. In the layman's terms, so we are responsible for managing the savings of many individuals. Our firm, there's about 13 of us. We manage in total over the savings of over 400 families, totaling about $1.2 billion in assets. A lot of people think of us as just stock guys, but it's a lot more than that. Retirement planning is a big, major part of what we do. But it could be anything any financial goals that our clients have, whether it's saving for college, maybe they want to sell a business, maybe they received an inheritance, they want to save for college, their children or grandchildren's college, they need sufficient coverage of insurance for their business or their personal replacement of income. But I'll get into that more, but that's kind of the gist of what we do.
One thing I do want to clarify on my role, so I did graduate with Frank in 2014 as well, but as far as what an underwriter does, so I say we work with contractors. Say Joe the plumber needs insurance for his business. He might need insurance for an employee that gets injured on the job, or insurance for damage he might cause on that job site, or an accident he gets into on the way to the job. My role is to work with an agent who represents our company to collect information from that insurer, Joe the plumber, and determine, hey, are we a good fit for you? Can we provide coverage and what premium that could be for?
Good deal. Okay, I want to introduce somebody else in the room right now. This is Professor Kurt Fickling, my colleague. He did not know I was doing this. Professor Fickling and I have worked together now for 12 years?
12 years.
12 years, and we work very closely together to make sure that the students in the risk management insurance program have the resources that they need, and we help them with job placement as much as we can. So tell us about your job. I mean, how did you get into your job? Did we help? Did you find it on your own? What happened?
So for me, I did not actually get any help, but it was not for a lack of resources available. So I graduated, I think graduation was in May of 2014, had an interview with Builders Mutual. Within a week of graduation, had a couple-week interview process, and then within 30 days, I had accepted the offer and was starting in June of that year. So I think this program has a very high success rate in job placement, which is one of the really cool things about insurance, is there's always going to be a need for it. There's always going to be so many job opportunities out there. However, to Brenda's point, there would be emails from Professor Pickling and Dr. Wells almost weekly with job opportunities through connections that they have in the industry. People saying, hey, we want to hire your students. So it's just a really good thing to have, and while I didn't take advantage of it, it's certainly there.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. Dr. Wells and Professor Pickling, there were hundreds of opportunities that they had lined up for me. I ended up not going in the risk management and insurance route and found a job with a wealth management firm. But another part of that is I'm from Maryland. There were many job offers in North Carolina, but I chose to get closer to home, to be with my then girlfriend, who's my now wife, and mother of 3 children. So it ended up being a good move, or a good decision for me. But they were the ones that helped me with an internship, a summer internship for the director of risk management at a food services distribution company in Rocky Mount. And then they were responsible for not only jobs in the insurance industry, but they lined up a job with a job interview with a company in Richmond, Virginia that was a wealth management firm. I ended up not going with that company, but through that process it led me to understand maybe what I was most interested in or what I didn't want to do. So that then led to looking in the wealth management or narrowing down to that industry, and then I used my network and connections back home to find my foot in the door, which is where I started at Merrill Lynch in Bethesda, Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C., and the rest is history. But had I stayed in North Carolina, I had interviews lined up thanks to Dr. Wells and Professor Pickling and the RMI program. I heard, were we one of the first programs? When did the RMI program start?
I got here in 2009. The program officially started in 2010. Weirdly enough, we're the 3rd program in North Carolina. We're the new kids on the block compared to the others at App State and UNC Charlotte. But yeah, I mean, the insurance industry came and told the dean, we need people. So he basically said, give us money. We need money. Give us money and we will bring you people. We will build a program to train people to be in this field. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I remember, I decided I wanted to major in finance, but I didn't know we could choose a concentration. And when I sat down, I think with Lee Brown, he said, there's this new risk management insurance program, and Dr. Wells told me they had 100% job placement. So I thought, well, that's the whole purpose why I'm here, right, is to find a job. So I decided to go that route. And how many members of our program were there at that time? 2010, maybe?
2010.
So I heard there are about 40 now, which maybe the growth, I think COVID kind of lowered those numbers there, which isn't great news for the program. But if you're a member of the RMI program, I would be super excited. The personal touch and that small classroom feel that Dr. Wells and Professor Pickling give you is the whole reason that you get all these networking opportunities. They have all these insurance companies are looking for potential employees, and you're competing with 40 other members of this program. If you're not part of the program, I would look at it as an opportunity to join the RMI program. Simple for the networking. Raj said it, and the keynote speaker mentioned it many times, networking. They are working with all these companies in the North Carolina area in this industry that are just looking for candidates. So.
Yeah, no, I would echo what Frank said. I mean, it's a lot about what you know, but it's definitely about who you know getting into the industry. And I'll talk about it more as you ask some more questions, but that definitely was a super big important thing for me is who I knew in the industry. But just touch on how I got into the insurance program. When I came to East Carolina, I had no intention of doing insurance. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Background history for me, I had a lot of family in insurance, so I was familiar with it, but wasn't sure it was the fit for me. And I was in just one of your entry-level business classes one time, and Brenda came in and started talking to the classes, and I guess those are the old days. I don't know if you do that anymore, but she was talking to the classes, just kind of showing and bragging on her program and trying to generate interest, and had a conversation with her after that, and I guess the rest was history. That was where I ended.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, most people don't set out to choose risk management insurance. But we've got a lot to offer, as these two will attest. And, are any of you in here, I'm just curious, are any of you interested in wealth management? Okay, you got some people interested in that. And this is afterwards, Frank will be here and you can talk to him. That's not the easiest field to break into. And unfortunately, a lot of the positions that are out there are selling life insurance. And that's not wealth management, that's selling life insurance. And it's different. So let us, even if you're in finance or risk management insurance, let us help you find a path that works for you. Okay, so tell me about the surprises. And I'll start, like I said, one of mine was, I was making all this money, and I was making, what was I making? I can't remember, but it was, at the time, it was a lot. And, I'd get to about the 20th of the month, and damn, the money was gone. And that was kind of a shocker for me. Another thing was the sexism that I ran into. I remember standing at a conference one time, and a professor professors are supposed to be pretty open-minded and quote liberal and all that stuff. And I'm standing at this conference, and this man told me that it was my duty to have babies, that I should have them, and the reasons he gave me were very racist and very sexist. And I was just standing there going, I cannot believe anybody said that. I can't believe anybody thinks that, much less said it out loud in public. And it was a circle of men, and I was the only woman, and every guy in the circle went, ooh, and kind of took a step back after he dropped that little bomb on me. So, guys, what surprises did you find?
So, I will agree with you, the paychecks do not last very long. However, I will say the College of Business and the RMI program too, does a really good job of kind of preparing you, letting you know that's going to be the case, and giving you some ideas on how to manage your money wisely. I can't remember the exact course, but I remember taking a finance course, I think it was Finance 1901 with
1904.
1904, there we go. And that course stuck with me to this day. I learned a lot of good stuff. But to Brenda's point, I think in business in general, the insurance industry could have a little bit of a bad rap for being a little bit sexist and gray-headed at times. And I'll be honest, I think that might be a little bit more overblown now than it was when I was getting to the industry. I can say specifically my company has done a phenomenal job of embracing diversity and hiring, and we have a very diverse group of people. And the more I travel within, my job and into other states, it does seem to be filtering out. So, I meet so many people from so many different walks of life. It's really cool to interact with them and learn how to, learn new perspectives from them.
I have a bit of a depressing answer, but one thing that was surprising to me, and no one can really prepare you for this, was the monotony of your career and the everyday routine. I remember after working in the real world, after 1 year, my 1 year anniversary came up, and I remember thinking, oh great, only 45 more years of this, and I can retire. But no one can really prepare you that, but I think that's why it's so important that you find out what you want to do and what you love and have a passion for. But it might be easier to find out what you don't love sometimes. As you interview, as you choose your major, as you network, talk to people, find out what you don't love. That might be easier than finding out what you do love. And the second thing, another thing that's just really difficult to prepare you for is that, you know, when you're in college, you're given assignments, you're told what to do and how to do it. You get out into the real world, you get a job, and just you have no experience, no real knowledge, and you have to go find out how to solution and how to do your job. And there are people there to guide you, but they're not going to hold your hand. Sometimes it's best to learn from failed experiences, but you kind of just learn as you go, and that real world experience, there's nothing that can really prepare you for that. So just the more experience, the better, and to understand that you're not going to be the smartest in the room, but you just got to put your head down and work and go above and beyond, and it'll pay off.
That's a great point about, you know, knowing how to use your resources and learn yourself. I mean, I think we all hear it when we're in college, but we don't really realize it until we get out into the real world. But the bottom line is people are there to make money, business is there to make money, and in most cases, you're really just the numbers. You got to find ways to get yourself out there and get in front of people and make yourself valuable and show your value to the company. And it took me probably a little while to learn that and really realize that.
A wise friend of mine and Professor Fickling told me one time years ago that when you start a new job, you spend the first 2 years clueless, just figuring out what you're doing and how you're doing it. And he said by year 5, you should have a handle on it. You know, you should, and if you don't, you're probably in the wrong place. And I always thought that was kind of insightful, because I came here in 2009, and it took me about 5 years to get my feet squarely on the ground.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And I've even noticed that just within, you know, promotions within my company. I mean, you're looking at a solid year before you're truly comfortable with the new role, and at least for me. And then suddenly I kind of that aha moment, and it clicks, and suddenly I'm not questioning myself so much, and it's more just habit at that point through the resources that I've gained.
Yeah, I was told the same exact thing, and it really resonated with me. After year 1, it was like learning a foreign language. The industry jargon, the terms, the acronyms, I felt so clueless, and you start to kind of question yourself, whether am I really fit? Is this the right industry for me? Am I just not as smart as my peers? I mean, you really start to question yourself, and then year 2, you think you're starting to grasp the concept, and you really don't. And then year 3, it starts to click. And you're right, one day you kind of wake up, and maybe it's just from hearing the language and studying and applying yourself to real situations that are better than what you can read in a textbook, and it just starts to make sense. And then your confidence builds, and then you're kind of unstoppable from there once you have that confidence.
And I'll say this, you know, if you ever need a good laugh, once you've been in the industry 5 or 6 years, go back and look at a file you touched when you first got there, and all the things that you probably did wrong or probably would have done a lot different. You kind of wonder how you made it sometimes, but it's pretty funny to do.
When I came out here in 2009, I was 41, and I will say that even having had a job beforehand of 17 years and being in one place and everything, it was still true that it took me 5 years here to get all my ducks in a row. And that's not a bad thing, that's just normal professional growth. But it can be unnerving at times. So how did ECU do anything to prepare you for these challenges, these surprises? What did they do? Like, y'all have the leadership program then, right? So what did ECU do that was helpful? Or if you want to talk about something that was not helpful, that'll be okay too.
So I'm going to speak to the RMI program specifically.
Okay.
Some stuff that I felt were very helpful was the amount of conferences and field trips, for lack of a better word, and opportunities that we had to get out in the field and experience things in the real world. For example, we went down to see an insurance broker in Goldsboro. I think they were called Strickland at the time. I have no idea if that's still the same name or not. But it allowed me to get in the doors of an actual insurance company and see what it's like, not just what I read in a textbook or what they told me, to see it in person, and then get in front of, you know, some pretty important people in the company, ask questions and listen to what they have to say. And, you know, from that I'm able to kind of gather okay, maybe this department within the insurance industry is not a fit for me, but maybe this one is. The other thing that I think comes to mind is we had a conference in Greensboro that was a bit of a networking event, but one of the things that they did was, this was kind of catered around students, is they had kind of a happy hour social time. And it was basically designed to allow students to learn how to network. And they basically told you, get out there, talk, here's, find 3 people you need to talk, kind of like, I think it was Mike said that earlier in the keynote. Get out there and talk to people, make that connection, and that really kind of gave me my first insight into learning how to network and meet new people.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, and I can really only speak to the RMI program, but the amount of trips that they plan for you is better than any lecture you could possibly receive. Insurance Jeopardy, do you still do that, Dr. Wills? No? Okay, that was a good one. How about in the College of Business, they did an etiquette dinner. Do you still do that?
Well, we used to, COVID messed up the etiquette dinner. But in the RMI program, we have corporate sponsorship for our own etiquette dinner, which will be November 14th. All it costs is $20 to join our student organization, and you get a 4-course meal at Starlight with complete etiquette instruction. If you know Dr. Catherine Carroll, she's the director of the BUSI Leadership Program, and she is an Emily Post trained etiquette expert. So what we have her do is walk us through each of the 4 courses. Here's how you do your bread, here's how you eat soup, and here's what I love about Dr. Carroll is she tells you why. Like I can never remember, do you eat soup away from you or towards you? But she explained it, and you need to come and she'll tell you how. But we have like several challenging courses, olives with pits, usually some kind of stringy pasta or chicken on the bone, things that are, and it's good food. Starlight, if you never been to Starlight, the food is really good. We spend about $75 a person on dinner. But we feel like it's important to have that polish, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't know, I'm not going to survey in here how many of you were born wealthy, but that's not really what ECU is known for. We're more of a scrappier crowd, kind of first generation college students a lot. And that's what I was. And the people coming out of NC State, Chapel Hill, Elon, they were born probably to some money. And so they've been knowing what fork to use, what to do, if you need to blow your nose at the table, what are you supposed to do? They know all that stuff already. And it will affect when you're competing against them for a job. You might be neck and neck, but the fact that they know what fork to use and I don't, would make a difference. So we think that etiquette dinner is extremely important. So yes, we're still having it.
I still use a lot of those helpful tips to this day. When to sit down and when to be in a meeting, it's a respect thing. You don't want to just sit down and start cutting up your food when everyone's still standing up. One I'll never forget is with a salad and cherry tomatoes. How to actually stick your fork in a tomato so it doesn't squirt your neighbor in the eye or something. I'll never forget that. So yeah, go on as many trips as you possibly can. The more you go on, the less surprised you'll be when you get out into the road.
We have a lot of industry funding for travel, and our students get the experience of going out to nice dinners. Like, who in here's been to a Brazilian steakhouse where they come around with the meat, Okay, yeah, we did that on our last trip. We went to the Brazilian steakhouse because we figure we got to eat somewhere. Let's do better than Subway. Let's have a good meal and let's learn how Brazilian steakhouses work. So we spend a lot of time on activities like that so that you're comfortable in those settings, because again, I was a first generation college student. I didn't know what fork to use. I didn't know anything. So it was very helpful to have that training and mentorship when I was your age, and so we try to pay that forward and provide that to our students.
Yeah, and I would add, a lot of business is done around a dinner table or, having a drink or something like that. So, just knowing how to conduct yourself and not look completely out of place is, if that's all you take out of that dinner, then that's time and money well spent, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, I sent these to you ahead of time, so you had time to think about it. Was there anything that me, Professor Fickling, the VUSI program, the College of Business, anybody at ECU that taught you or told you or trained you in that turned out to be wrong? Because I know we don't get it all right all the time.
I'll be honest, I thought long and hard about that question, and I couldn't think of a single thing that was just completely wrong.
Okay.
Now, it could have been, maybe I missed something that if I had listened better, maybe I would say different, but I think because it's a little bit of a smaller program and you have, three instructors that really are so in depth within the industry and have so many connections, and you keep in touch with what the real world looks like, they do a really good job of preparing you for it. I wouldn't say I had every idea of what I was getting into, but because of all the trips and stuff that were out there and the material that we covered in classes, I certainly was not out of place and completely, out of my element when I got into the business world.
Yeah, we try, and any program you're in, whether it's MIS or your marketing management, your professor should be trying to train you for the job you're going to have. Rather than teaching you what you want to be in college, they should be teaching you what you want to do after college and getting you prepared for that. And sometimes those are tough lessons. Sometimes they're not. But Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, I was hoping Tyler had something. I thought long and hard about that as well, and really couldn't come up with anything. And that's not to boast or brag or toot your horn, but there was nothing that you told me that was wrong or not helpful or steered me in the wrong direction. Even if, and maybe I try to ask some of my colleagues if they had a good answer. And one example is if you're in the RMI program, they're not just going to just force feed you insurance that you have to be an insurance professional. I'm an example of that. She helped line up a job with a wealth management firm because I told her I was interested in going that route. So don't be afraid to make a decision to join the RMI program because you think that you have to work in the insurance industry. I would join it because there's less competition, 100% job placement, more opportunity, more trips, more networking that they're setting up for you that a lot of the other programs or schools in the country are not doing.
Thank you. So let's switch gears and talk about the students that are here. This is, y'all are, which one? Huh? You're millennials, that's what I thought.
I thought we weren't technically.
I think it's through 96.
Well, you're something, I don't know. This is Gen Z, okay? Given what you know about them and what you've heard about them, and I'm going to tell you one thing that I'm really against is generation bashing. How many of you, have you not heard the adults, not that you're not adults, but you know what I'm saying, the millennials and the baby boomers talking about how horrible your generation is? They did it to me, they did it to Professor Fickling, they did it to them. And I spend a lot of time in my public speaking and stuff telling people to stop doing that because they've got to work with you and they need to respect you. Like I tell them, if they want to make fun of you and your generation, that's okay, but if you make fun of them, they want to take you to HR for age discrimination, and I don't like that. So, we do want to make sure that we are respectful of all the generations, and that right now there are 5 generations working in the workplace. You've got the people that are close to retirement or at retirement age. You've got your baby boomers, you got Gen X, you got your millennials, and Gen Z. So what kinds of things do you think this generation should be thinking about? Skills they should be acquiring, soft skills, technical skills. What's your take on that?
So, I would say you're definitely spot on. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, oh, those millennials, they just don't care, they just don't get it sometimes, and it can be pretty frustrating, but I think one thing I take from all that is every generation has their own strengths. Gen Z, one thing I would hear and see in the workplace as we continue to hire more into our company is you have such a reliancy on the savvy to technology. I'm only 10 years removed and barely into the other generation, and I would say just the students that come, or I would say students, the new employees that come in are so much farther along technology-wise than I am. And as you get older, a lot of times that gap gets a little bit wider. But with that becomes an opportunity to now be an asset to some of the older employees in your company. It allows you to make those connections, and where they may lack in technologically savvy side of things, they probably are a little bit more of an independent thinker or an entrepreneurial thinker. So, I find myself a lot of times really keying in on, just gaining their perspectives, because they want to been in the industry a lot longer. They allow me to really, change my thought process, to think about things a new way, and maybe just think things through from multiple perspectives before making a decision. And this allowed me to have some really good relationships across all generations within my company. In fact, probably my best friend at my company is old enough to be my dad, which you probably will find, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, we heard all the stereotypes about millennials, and I would think your generation has to deal with a lot of people thinking that maybe you're just looking for. It seems popular in the past couple of years, a work from home position, maybe a remote position, or flexible schedules. I know a lot of companies have tried that and it didn't work. So I don't know if that's something you're looking for, maybe to set yourself apart, be willing to go the extra mile and go into the office. Because a lot of Gen Z candidates might not be willing to do that, and they think they can just work from home and live in this state and work in another. The second thing is just social media that you all have to deal with, just representing yourself, being aware that anything you do or say could be recorded, any tweet, any TikTok you post, could come back to harm you in the future. I would just think before you do anything in public, someone has their phone out, they're recording it likely, and they're going to use it against you. So just be mindful of that. Those are the two biggest things I would think.
Anything? Go ahead.
I would completely agree about the social media aspect. Corporations use social media for advertising and getting out there. So you'd be very naive to think they're not looking at you too when they're coming in as a prospective employee.
Yeah, one of our favorite, well, it's not a happy story, but one of the most striking examples of something that happened while I've been here and while Professor Fickling's been here. We had a young lady in the program, and she went and interviewed for a job, and she was a Twitter user. So she walked out of the interview and put on Twitter, "I don't think I want to work for that D-bag." And that guy was ready to offer her the job, but something made him Google her name and her Twitter popped up. And so he looked at it and saw that she had been in his office 5 minutes before she wrote that. And, the only thing I didn't like about it is they called me. I was like, what do you want me to do about it? But they called me to tell me that, this had happened. And so you really do have to be careful with your social media because, she very much lost that job. And not just that job, but any chance of any job with that company ever, as long as the same people work there. Because it was just not professional. So be careful with your social media, be very careful. And I've seen employers that, a friend of mine that is in the insurance business said they were going to hire this young lady and she was like perfect and everything, the whole package, everything they wanted. They went and looked at her social media and every single photograph of her, she had alcohol in her hand. Beer, liquor, something. And every picture on her social media was her drinking and partying, and they didn't offer her the job. They didn't want to take that on. So, be careful what you put out there. It shouldn't be that way, but it is that way. Be very careful of that. There was another question. Okay, what regrets do you have about your time in school? I'll start. When I was in school, I was very obsessed with grades. So I spent a lot of time working on the book smart and not the people smart and not the soft skills. I had to develop those things later in life. What do you wish you could, if you had a do-over, what would you do differently?
Two things come to mind for me. One, obviously, at least it's kind of your first glimpse of freedom outside of the house, coming out of high school. So there's so many different things you've got access to and you want to do, and sometimes that can take away from your focus on, on your academics. So I was kind of that way. I mean, I didn't have bad grades by any means, but I probably didn't really study and retain the information like I should have. So if I went back, I would probably pay a little bit more attention in a few of my classes. But the big thing within the RMI program specifically is I mentioned all these opportunities that they put out there for you to go travel and meet people and attend conferences. I didn't do near as much of that as I would have liked. And I did a few, obviously, but this is such a small industry. The amount of people that you meet that know each other, I mean, it goes back to the social media. And just because you interview with someone and they didn't like you doesn't mean that they're not going to talk to someone else that you might interview them for as well. So, I mean, you see so many different people in different roles throughout your career and cross paths multiple times. So, just getting out there and networking and putting yourself out in front of people. I wish I had done a lot more of that.
Yeah, and I attended every class. That was really important to me. It's mind-boggling to me how somebody would pay tuition to go here and then not go to class. And then I tried to get involved in the clubs and the trips that they offered. But I would say if I had to go back, I would try to get involved in other organizations separate from the program or separate from your major. Go meet other people outside of the College of Business. Fraternities and intramural sports are great, but there are thousands of clubs that you don't even probably know about. So obviously attend everything that you possibly can within your major or the industry you're interested in, but go out, like Raj said, make yourself uncomfortable. Go join a random club that you know nothing about and meet new people. The second thing is I wish I would have applied for more scholarships. I know that Dr. Wells used to send all these offers for potential scholarships that they're just looking to give away money. Sometimes they're $500 here and $1,000 there, and you think, oh, well, that will only pay for one book. I promise you, every dollar counts when you're paying it back in student loans and interest over the years. So you wouldn't believe what scholarships are out there unless you look, and every single one counts, and just apply to all of them.
And I would even add on the scholarship thing. I completely agree with that. I didn't probably take advantage of much of it as I should have, but I mean, everybody comes from different walks of life. Some of you may, have your tuition covered by your family or whatnot, and some of you maybe, only look for it yourself when you graduate, but even if it's covered already, that's $500, $1,000 that your parents or whoever it is not responsible for. That means a lot to everybody. So there's just so much money out there that goes unclaimed, honestly, so it can never hurt to apply.
Sometimes we might have 20 scholarships in a year and 12 people apply. So those 12 people get treated really well. The money's there, it's got to be given out. So I would definitely encourage you. The College of Business has its scholarship process it opens next month in November, and it will stay open until I think January 15th. And every year we have students who, I'm like, why didn't you apply? Well, I didn't think I'd get it. Well, you're definitely not going to get it if you don't apply. And not all scholarships are based on grades. Some of them are based on other things. So, it won't take you 30 minutes to apply, but you might get some money out of it if you do. Last question, and then we'll open it up to the floor and make sure, before I forget, make sure you sign in, especially if you're in my class. So, all right, 3 things. what are the 3 things that you think people should have to be successful today? It can be anything.
So I was kind of smiling when we were sitting through the keynote earlier, and Frank just said it too. Roz mentioned putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, getting yourself out there. I mean, candidly, this was a little bit uncomfortable for me, first time doing it. I've taught classes before with Brenda many times, but new environments. So doing things that stretch you and make you grow and get in uncomfortable situations, that's number one. Because if you're going to be the person that sits there and hides behind the keyboard and is just there to collect a paycheck, that's all you're ever going to do. You're not going to have advancement. You're just going to collect your paycheck, and you're not going to have any satisfaction from your job. And to Frank's point, you're doing this for 40-something years. Find something you enjoy and find ways to grow. The second thing is be willing to adapt and change. Things happen whether or not we like it or not. Sometimes it forces us to change. We depend on technology a lot right now. And for instance, your company could have a cyber attack, and suddenly you have no access to any systems or any data you've been using for your job. So how do you now transition and continue? Because you're expected to get work done, whether or not you have the systems you would normally would or not. I mean, you're still expected to get a job done. So how do you adapt to that? And then thirdly is effective communication. Don't hide behind the keyboard. I mean, there's a time and place for email. It's always good to have a paper trail for a conversation, but get on the phone, talk to someone, because you pick up so much more from them when you're talking to them in person. You can hear the tones in their voice. They might be willing to divulge more information than they would have if there was an email with a paper trail there. I had an English professor here that told me something that really stuck with me, and I think it's treated me well. He said, just keep it simple. And this applied to business writing, but also I think it is applicable to just a conversation in general. There's no reason to continue to ramble on and on and on about what you're trying to say. If you can say it in 2 sentences versus 5, you need to do that. When I'm writing a business email, if I've got 10 questions for an agent, I'm going to be lucky to get 4 of those responses back, because after 4 questions, they've zoned out, they don't care, they're not going to respond to it. If I get on the phone and ask them that question, I'm probably going to get all 10 of those questions answered within about 5 minutes versus the 10 or 15 it would have taken them to try to respond to them. So communication is key. So there's so much about business, and especially the insurance industry that I'm in. I talk on the phone all the time, communicate with people daily, all day long, and being effective at it and just keeping things simple has been very successful for me.
Number one, I would say be willing to do things that others are not. A good example, going back to the stereotypes of millennials, I went into a job interview, first job I got at Merrill Lynch. I really wanted this job. I told the guy, I don't care how much you pay me, I'll clean the bathrooms, I'll clean the toilets for you, I'll do personal favors for you. Just give me a chance. And that guy was kind of a jerk and took that a little bit too literal, but I was willing to do the things that other millennials weren't. Whether that was personal favors, making copies, picking up his dry cleaning, whatever it was. But little things like that go a long way and get your foot in the door. Don't underestimate the value of loyalty. Another stereotype of millennials is we just want to move from jump from job to job, and there's no loyalty there. I stuck with this firm that I was with for many years, and I saw other colleagues of mine come and go. And each time there was a ton of turnover. Each time someone came and quit, that just made me look even better and proved that I was loyal to that team and that company. And the last thing is just, I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's okay to not be the smartest person in the room. Quote, one of my favorite quotes is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If you're willing to just show how much you care, it'll go a lot further than some fancy Ivy League degree, or because your parents are wealthy, they were a financial advisor, for example. Just show how much you care, and it will go a long way.
Well, do y'all have some questions for these guys? They'll answer anything, just about. Yes.
As someone who's not in like the RMI program, what would you say the biggest difficulty would be like transitioning into the insurance world?
Can I ask what your major is?
I'm in MIS. it's a big difference, I know. But,
Yeah, okay.
What year are you?
I'm a senior this year, so I'll graduate in May.
He's in MIS, Management Information Systems, so. Insurance is powered by computers. So they need you. They need you. You don't have to be an RMI to get to that industry.
Right.
So a couple things come to mind for me. One, we hire people all the time at my company that does not have an insurance degree or even any insurance background. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have it. It would help you. It gives you that foundation to be successful quicker, but it doesn't mean you can't be successful. So having just a business degree in general, or being comfortable with computers, and there's so many different roles within an insurance company or an insurance industry. It doesn't mean you're selling a policy to someone. It could mean, I mean, my company has probably 40 or 50 people in the IT side that we build our own products out. There's constant systems that you have to maintain and service. So, I mean, just because you're in an MIS degree doesn't mean you can't apply that to an insurance type of role. I mean, there's so many different companies or roles within the company that you can apply to.
Come see us. We'll help you.
Okay.
Even if you're not one of us.
Hey, so you guys mentioned about how it takes like 5 years to be comfortable and confident in what you're working on. Did you guys feel more like support or pressure, like when you were trying to build up like your confidence for the first couple of years?
For me, I felt support, and that may be more company dependent. I mean, not every company is created equal. They all have different cultures, and people are good fits at certain companies for a reason. My company, I felt like was very supportive of me. I was able to, it felt like we had an open door policy. If there was something I was struggling with, I could go and ask for the help and not be judged by it. It's being viewed as, he's actually wanting to learn, not that he's not paying attention or something like that. So for me, it was very supportive. I didn't feel guilty or, I didn't feel like I struggled too much. I was able to always have the resources available for me.
Yeah, and I had a different experience, and that's why what Raj said when the keynote speaker, finding a mentor, a good mentor, is super important. So I have two experiences. The first one was very negative. I felt a lot of pressure, and it was all on me. And there was no support. It was kind of find out yourself. So that's when you got to kind of take matters into your own hands. I started studying for different licenses to be a financial advisor. I ended up studying for the CFP, which designation, which stands for Certified Financial Planner. They weren't helping me with that at all. I basically would wake up at 5 a.m., study from 5 to 8, work from 9 to 5, and then study again from 5 to 8 in the evening. I wasn't able to study during work hours like a lot of other financial advisors have the opportunity to do. So I ended up getting the CFP designation while no one thought I would, leaving that company and joining a firm with the most amazing mentors in the world. So finding a mentor can make or break that uncomfortable feeling of where you're not sure, you don't have the confidence yet, you're still figuring out the industry. And if you have a good mentor that will support you, it means the world. So find a good mentor.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it reminded me, I actually didn't probably have the greatest start to my career. The trainer I had was probably subpar to say the least. Wasn't very attentive. Was working some other things on the side, and ultimately ended up not working out for them at our company. But because I was able to realize that, I was able to find some mentors pretty quickly within the company and gravitate to them, and they kind of helped train me and bring me up to speed. And at that point, you start to realize who the really good people are in your company, who the resources are, and then it's up to you to utilize them. But if you do, I mean, that's how you get that support.
Good questions. Go ahead, Logan, and then we're out of time, so we gotta let y'all get to your next session.
As far as culture goes, excuse me, that's like very important to a lot of people coming into a job. How do you feel would be a way for people looking for jobs to find out about the culture within that workplace?
So, if you know people at the company, certainly talk to them. I mean, there's no better way to get a feel for that than to talk to someone that works there. If you know them personally or you trust them, they're going to give you an honest answer. There's a lot of resources outside of, on the internet, like Glassdoor, or I feel like there's a couple other ones out there as well that people put pretty honest feedback on them. So go out and read them, and you can get scores, you know, about how companies grade in different areas. And then another thing you can do is just scour their websites. I mean, you learn a lot about a company just by what you can read and what they put out there. And you can see what their true morals and their values are as well. But I would honestly say definitely try to talk to someone within the company. If you're interviewing and if there's any way you can get an opportunity to shadow with someone or get to know them. A lot of companies like to do that and bring people in, especially if they're really considering you. Bring you in and let you sit with some of the employees and shadows to make sure they feel like you're going to be a good fit, but that's also a really good opportunity for you to do the same for yourself, making sure they're going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, and I'd say when you go into a job interview, obviously you're the one being interviewed, but it's okay for you to interview the person that's looking to hire you as well in the company. Don't forget that. It's not just about you. You're interviewing them as well. And I mean, I have polar opposite experiences with culture. So the first firm that I worked for and the team that I was on, some of the worst culture I could ever experience as far as morals and ethics. But again, I just put my head down and thought that if I just worked hard, I would be successful. And then when I left that company, the new firm that I joined could write a book on culture. I mean, in the interview, they told me, here are your job requirements. I want you to get married, stay married, have as many kids as you can afford, coach your kids' sports, travel with your family, travel with your wife separately, and travel with your wife and kids as well. Get involved in the community. If you don't have money right now, give your time. So this was what they laid out for me. And I was, who wouldn't want to work for a company like that? Compared to previously when I worked for a guy that said, yeah, you won't be making it to your kids' baseball games. You know, we got work to do. So interview your employer as well and find out what they really care about.
Right.
That's such a good point. I'll just quickly reiterate. I mean, you can ask those questions, and the way they respond, you'll definitely know whether or not it's a company for you. I mean, a good culture values the work-life balance, and it's not just about work. Obviously, you're there to make money for them, but I mean, for example, my employer, I mean, if I've got to go 10 to a doctor's appointment or leave early for something, they say go, get your work done later. We know you will trust you to do it. So I would say I would look for an employer that feels that way about the work-life balance and not say, oh, well, tough luck, how can you just miss that this year?
Well, we gotta let the other people in the room. Frank, Jarboe, time for Surles.